have a secret. Kara, we have a secret. Do you think we should tell Jennie? I think it's time.
Oh, no.
We tell Jennie about something that happened last week.
Jennie, we have something to tell you.
What happened?
Well, it was quite traumatic. Molly and I were on a call, and I said, hold on, Molly. Delaney's school is calling. So I clicked over. Poor Molly was on hold for a while, right, Molly?
It was probably 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes.
I was starting to get concerned that something really, really bad had happened.
Right. Why is the school calling and why haven't I come back?
Right.
And when I got back, I was like, Molly, that was the nurse's office at Delaney's school.
I know what it is.
And Molly said, is everything okay? And I was like, no, things are not okay.
I said, what's going on? What's happening over there?
And I said, the nurse has said that they found a knit in Delaney's hair. And I
knew it.
And I froze. And they're like, but don't worry, we didn't find any live bugs. And I was like, there's got to be a live bug somewhere if there's an egg, right? So I immediately, telling Molly this story, start to panic. Molly, would you call it panic? It was like, sure, I couldn't breathe.
It was kind of like a delayed reaction.
Yes.
It was, I could hear Kara's wheels kind of spinning. Like, what do I need to do right now? Is Brian going to go pick her up? What's going to happen? And then Kara just completely went blank.
I forgot everything that I know about lice, everything you guys have taught me in the last, I don't know, 15 years. I forgot. I literally was like, wait a minute. They can only live on the surface 45 minutes. It'll be fine. Wait. And then what are you talking about? No, they live for 24 to 48 hours. I'm like, oh yeah, wait, that's right. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I couldn't breathe. And it was like, you know how when people say that you have a trauma happen, one of two things happen. You either like kick into like that gear where you're going to save the day, which is what I normally do. And instead I did the other thing where I completely blanked out and couldn't even remember anything about lice.
Okay. Now, Jennie, let me just set the picture. You know how many phone calls we get in one day at Lice Ladies?
Yes.
Imagine 100 to 200 Karas calling us in a day. That's what happened over a period of about 48 hours.
Oh, gross. The drama's about to end, 'cause gross. Stop asking for a friend, taboos. Icky is what we do, just science. Yeah, it's not so weird. Your gross out journey starts right here on Oh, Gross.
Just to back it up. So Delaney gets picked up from school because they said that she didn't have to go home because it was toward the end of the day. And that there were other...
Who went to pick her up?
Brian went to pick her up because I was going to get prepared like I was a lice doctor here, right? So I'm going to get ready.
Kara was sweating at this point. She was sweating. And I could hear the tone of her voice was kind of going up and up and up as she was talking to Brian, and the panic was setting in.
So she comes back and it's like she tells me that like it was a couple of her friends and that two of them, her and her bestie, only had eggs. So she's like, don't worry, I don't have any live bugs. But here's the best part. She tells the nurse, oh, don't worry. My mom is best friends with the lice ladies because the nurse said, do you know what lice is? And she's like, of course I know what lice is. And she's like, my mom's best friends with the lice ladies. And so the nurse then reached back out to me and was like, oh, so I was going to tell you to take her to a place. And I'm like, no, I'm going to treat her here. And she was like, oh, that's great. So Delaney comes home and I spend no less, I'm not kidding, an hour and a half combing her hair out because she has long hair. So I first do the conditioner. And as I'm doing the conditioner, your conditioner, I find a big dead bug. Okay.
Yes.
Which we have a picture of.
We do have a picture of it that we are going to post on the website.
Okay. But this bug looked pretty big to the naked eye. I mean, it was huge. Molly, you saw the photo. Help me out here. It was big.
Yes. I mean, these are the bugs that we see every single day, but your reaction was priceless.
Everyone thinks that when you find adult bugs, that's really scary because they're big. They're like the size of a small ant. But actually, baby bugs are worse than finding adults because that means you've had it long enough for the nits to start hatching. It's the adults that go from head to head.
Mhm.
So if you just find an adult or two and some nits, then you are finding it before the nits hatch. If you find some adults and a few babies and some nits, then we know that person's had it at least 7 to 10 days, up to 2 weeks. If you find adults, teenagers, babies, and eggs, then you know that we have multiple generations that have been able to hatch on the head. So finding an adult bug is actually better than finding tiny little nymphs in the hair.
Okay, so let me set the rest of the scene for you.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm going to do Delaney. Brian, you go do Killian. Now, I thought Killian has short hair, and I figured Brian could handle the short hair, right? He'll get it out. Now, knowing, I don't know about your husbands, but my husband likes to rush through things.
Yes.
So just keep that in the back of your head to Killian and do another check. So we get Delaney done. I braid her hair because Molly's telling me, braid her hair, pull it back. I'm asking, at this point, I've calmed down, right, Molly? And I start getting lice calls from every mother at school. So now I become the hotline. So I'm getting...
Wait a minute. In between all this, I probably got about 20 texts.
20.
At least 20 while Kara was like treating Delaney. And then we get, oh my gosh, the moms are starting to call me now. What do I need to tell them about this? I've totally forgotten about the sheets. I've totally forgotten what to do about vacuuming. Like everything
I was second guessing myself at this point because of the whole panic moment. I was like, wait a minute. All right, the dryer does this, right? Right, Molly? So to go back to that. So in the middle of like me just trying to get through my own trauma of, there's a dead bug in my daughter's hair and all this kind of stuff. These calls start coming in and texts because everyone's like, oh, I'm at the lice treating place and I'm buying furniture spray. And I'm like, no, do not buy furniture spray. Furniture spray doesn't work. So I do want to take a moment in this great story that will continue to go on. And I would love to discuss with you ladies a little bit about that because that was a big thing that was happening as people were going to different clinics, which by the way, were quickly filling up because it was an outbreak at the school.
Mm-hmm.
They would go into a place and they'd start texting me and say, should I buy the conditioner? Should I buy the shampoo? And, obviously the answer was, well, with the conditioner and shampoo, if it's a preventative thing and it's also going to help you come through, sure. But then it was like, but I also got the furniture spray. And I'm like, oh, no furniture spray. So can you guys kind of sort of talk us through when it comes to products? Okay. Because that is one thing I learned. These poor parents are so terrified, right? We are all scared. Even I, who know better, right? Know everything there is to know that a layperson can know about lice, thanks to you guys, right? Still drew a blank and panicked. And if I had been somewhere and someone was telling me, buy this, you're going to be okay, I would have bought it. I would have bought anything at that moment. You mean I spray this and it's over? In.
Well, a lot of the sprays that you get over the counter, let's say in a grocery store, those are the same pesticides that don't work in your hair when you're trying to treat. So if it doesn't work in your hair, why would it work in your house? It doesn't. In some of the clinics, I know that they make sprays that are essential oil based or enzyme based, but it's also not going to kill the bugs. So while it might help repel a bug from wanting to get on it, it's not necessarily going to eat through the exoskeleton of the bug and kill it 100%. So you might as well just vacuum.
Okay, so vacuuming does get rid of them then.
It does. That's true.
So I gave some decent advice. That makes me feel better. I told everyone, hey, vacuum it. But the big question that came up was everyone cleaned their bedding, including myself, but everyone wondered, do you have to vacuum the actual mattress? It can't hurt to vacuum the mattress, right?
You're going to be wasting your energy by vacuuming the mattress.
But I want to vacuum the mattress.
Vacuum away, honey. Vacuum away. And while you're at it, vacuum the headboard and the curtains too. If they could burrow, then we would have brain lice. And thank goodness that does not yet exist.
Brain lice.
Marcus, please don't make a movie about brain lice.
I was going to say, that sounds like a Marcus Dunstan callback, right? Brain lice. So as the story continues, while my friends are at these stores, right, Molly, my mother is panicking for me. And my mother gets on Amazon and goes, Molly was dying laughing. My mother is like, I've just paid and I'm sending it to you immediately. It's a spray that will kill the bugs in the house on Amazon. I'm sure she did this because she was about to visit in a week and was probably like, oh, no, ma'am, I don't want lice at that house. But I got the bottle and the bottle said immediately kills lice. Is that true?
It's not, but there's also a lot of places that, are making natural products that don't go through the FDA. They don't have a national drug code or anything like that. So although they would be held liable for false claims on the packaging, that's something that a manufacturer has to be extremely cautious of. But there are a lot of false claims on packages, even with things that you get in the grocery store. So the facts is that lice are pesticide resistant for the most part, both over the counter and prescription. If it doesn't work in your hair, it's not going to work in your house. And spraying some essential oil on a louse isn't necessarily going to kill all of it. You might kill a few bugs if you drown them, but you're not going to kill, if there's 10 bugs on your couch, you're not going to kill all of them. But also, there's not going to be 10 bugs on your couch unless you've had lice for a year. So they don't really want to be out of your hair because they can only live off the human head for 48 hours. And you can't spread the eggs or knits or reattach them. They can only hatch off your head if the environment that they are in is the same temperature as a human.
And also, I think it's important to reiterate that lice are not running around your house or infesting your house like a bed bug or a flea. They are very much a surface bug. And so they cannot burrow. They can't run around like that. They're just not that strong off of the head. So when you're cleaning items, we're just really concerned about where the head has been in the past up to 48 hours.
Yeah. As the story continues, so this is day one where, this is day one, right, Molly? Where I'm fielding these calls. So I'm like in a chat group with my class. I'm on text with Molly. Okay. And in between, Molly has me sort of interviewing the places that if anyone's going to have to go out, to make sure that I'm not going somewhere that may be using a product that probably wouldn't work, like olive oil, right? To treat lice and things like that. So just imagine everything firing off. Okay. Oh, I checked my head about 3 times and sent Molly stuff. And she kept being like, no, that's hairspray. No.
But by the way, I'm trying to scroll through right now and find a few of these text messages so I can read them out.
Do you have a text? Okay, go.
This is the next morning.
Yeah.
And I'm just, how's everything going? Blah, blah, blah. And this is what I get. Kara's text. Hang on. I found a louse in Brian's hair.
Oh, yeah.
It's live.
Yes. So
I'm about to send him out the door because he is a bad patient and won't listen to me and how to do this.
So that's okay. So my husband Brian has very curly, coarse hair, right? So, okay, I'm going to tell the truth. I treated myself, even though I didn't find any bugs in my hair because I was like so paranoid. So I treated and I have extensions. So I treated myself to the best of one's ability and I didn't care if one tore out. I was like, mama getting in there, right? Brian, we just did a check, right? So this is the next day. And I'm like, Brian, I think you should just treat yourself like I did. Okay. So I get him in the bathroom and I tell him what to do and how you got to section it off, right? And where we want to start to comb. And I come in and he has sprayed the Evic stuff on his head like it was like hair gel and you were combing back. You know what I'm talking about? Combing back. I'm like, you can't do it that way. And he was like, you know how me and Brian bicker, like it's funny, right? But I'm like, so I'm getting frustrated. I walk out and then I hear him yell, hurry, hurry, hurry. And I come back in and on the paper towel, he's like, grab your camera. It's moving. So I'm screaming. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. There's video of this, by the way. You can hear me swearing, right?
Yes.
Molly in the video.
Yeah. Your reaction was priceless because you were screaming and you were describing how it's running all over the paper towel and how the legs are moving. And it was just awesome.
They were moving.
It sounds like someone got the mama bug in their hair.
Oh, wait. So are female lice bigger?
They are. The female lice are bigger than the males. So someone got the mama.
He for sure got the mama bug then. And then I say, he's fired as a patient. He's not listening to me. I gotta find a place to send him to because I can't do that. He's not going to listen to me to do it. Right. So then we have to start investigating the place I go to. Are they using an enzyme, right? Based product,
right.
And so Molly would be like, ask him this. And then she gets so frustrated. She's like, just put me on 3-way. just let me get in on this call and ask them the questions. Well, there was a couple of places that we said no to. We knew right away. Molly was like, "You're not going there. You're not going there." And any place that was selling furniture spray, you were like, "Just forget it." I mean, because you don't know like if they're already selling furniture spray. So we found a place that was called My Hair Helpers, and it was all it's pretty far out. It's about a 27-minute drive from us. And I threw Brian in that car, and I said, "I don't care." I called him. I said, "Can you get him now?" And I sent him, there.
Wait a minute. Your exact quote was, "Give me a second. I'm shoving Brian out the door." Now he's out the door.
So
I'm so glad that you made him no comb, because I was going to ask you previously in the story if you chucked Brian, because the boy has some good hair.
I know, exactly. And he was like,
So
so mind you, now I want you to put yourself in my shoes, Jenny. So now I've been sleeping next to a man who I have found that has a live bug that, by the way, he thinks this is cool. He's like, "Oh, I got a live bug." He goes, "Took me 49 years and I finally got lice." I'm like, "We're excited about this." Like, this is like
So you checked yourself again immediately, right?
100%. I checked myself again. And again. Oh no, the story goes what? Again and again and again, I checked myself. So, so he goes, and so now I'm like, uh-oh. Now that I saw how he did his hair, I was like, oh no. That's probably what he did to Killian. He probably sprayed the stuff in and gave him a comb back, like he was going out with gel in his hair, right? So I want to get Killian from school earlier. So the minute school's out, it's like, get Killian here. And at this point, I'm like, I'm going to call, now that I know this place also will do a home visit. I was like, when they treat Brian and they said like 8 or 10 nits in Brian, but no live bugs. In between all this, I get another call from school. They did a recheck on Delaney. And they were quite impressed because I only found 1 nit. So I'd done a good job, I guess. But still, I was like, 1 nit, come back, So she comes home. I get them all lined up. I have the place come.
And by the way, we do have a picture of Brian post life treatment.
Yes,
so we do have a picture that we can share.
Brian had like the greased back like hair. He was all excited about it. He's like, "I got some coconut oil or something in here too." Like they did like the whole thing. And he's like sitting there, and he's like sitting across from me, and he looks like we're calling him Slick Rick. So Brian's sitting across from me. The kids come back, and literally now in between this, I'm getting millions of texts from moms being like, one place that I will not mention, but I know there were the other kids who got checked. So Delaney and her friend each only had, when they got rechecked, 1 nit, which is not too bad from what I heard. Right? Is that correct?
It's pretty good, especially for a non-lice lady. That's really good. You did a great job.
Thank you. And then some of the other kids, though, they found like they were only going by section. They do a section. They found several. So we all kind of decided to like retreat again, obviously. So they come over and they do Killian. They check Killian's head, and he has 10 nits. So Brian did not do a job like I did.
Right.
So then now I'm in this situation where I was like, "Can you just look?" Because I knew with my well, first of all, do you know what kind of extensions I have?
Do you have the keratin bonds? Okay. Yeah. Because you can really rip those out with those lice combs too. You've got to be careful.
So I did rip out probably about 8. To be honest, I don't care. But what I found out, which was interesting, and I did not know this, that the keratin extensions are a little bit of a repellent. They're not foolproof, right? Compared to some other ones because of the keratin. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was something that I learned in the process.
Well, it's not foolproof because we have found nits that are stuck to the base right above the keratin bond.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But they don't like the texture of that, or if there's little pieces of it that go up to the scalp, it makes it harder for them to try to lay an egg there. So it's not that the keratin bond will repel it, but because especially if they're close to the scalp, it's going to make that little section of hair less attractive to them.
That makes sense. So it's just that if they do get in your head, they are like, "I don't want to stay," kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, we've had patients that have come in and they had heavier cases. So it was different. The child had maybe 3 or 4 months of lice before the parent found out, and the mom had extensions. And, we're doing just a danger zone check. So from behind the ears, around the front hairline to the other side behind the ear and through the crown. And we don't find anything, but we can't guarantee that there's no lice in there. So she went and got her extensions out, and there were nits where, right at the base of the hair strand next to the scalp where the bonds had made it to where we couldn't check that strand of hair. But that was a little different because the child had been snuggling in bed or whatever for a few months before the lice was found. So
yeah, when they came and checked, I asked for just like they were hands down, we don't check or guarantee extensions, but I was like, I explained the whole story and was like, can you just do a peekaroo? Because I've like literally come through my hair and ripped out like 9 or whatever. And I was clear. And also I was checking in like twice a day with Molly and trying not to tell her that I kept treating my head. And she finally was like, girl, stop treating yourself.
Wait a minute. Twice a day?
I was checking twice a day.
More like twice an hour.
I get it. She said the same thing to me when I got it a few months ago from another family member. And I have extensions too. And I had taken my extensions out and I had raked my head with my own, foam and comb, the Lice Ladies Evict and the Lice Ladies Evict comb. And I had raked it to where my scalp was bleeding. And Molly came over and she was like, dude, your scalp is literally bleeding. Stop
combing.
No matter if you're an expert in something, there are certain like phobias or fears or panic that sets in when it comes to certain things, and bugs, right, is one of them.
Absolutely. And it happens to all of us. I mean, I'm the founding owner of Lice Ladies and I got lice twice,
But never from checking someone's head, which is funny.
No, from my own kid and from a family member. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's totally different.
And I say this every day. Where there are kids, there is going to be lice. So you have to be proactive as a parent. You're responsible for making sure that you're checking your kids, that you're, pulling their hair back, doing the preventative sprays, things like that. It's not up to schools anymore to check. It's up to parents to check their kids.
And even people with short hair, like we saw with Kara's story.
With Brian.
Short
and
hair, lice don't care. So
no, Brian and Killian both had it. And
absolutely.
they have short hair.
That's why we want to check everyone, because people think, oh, well, my son has a buzz cut. We had a patient that had a buzz cut. And literally I combed out a year of lice out of the buzz cut.
Let's go back for a second. Why is it 7 to 10 days? Because I know some of these places were saying the 3-day, but in general, most places said 7 to 10 days. Why is that time frame? That's the recheck.
For us, it's because it's based on the life cycle of lice. So once a nit is laid by a female louse in the hair, it takes 7 to 10 days for that nit to hatch into a baby bug. So we try to make it to where we're not having the patient go outside that time frame to where they're waiting so long that they can already have babies that have hatched in the hair. But also, we don't want to make it too soon, especially if they had a heavier case or they're just sensitive, their scalp is sensitive, that we're not injuring their skin on their scalp. So that's why we want to make sure that if they are really allergic to the lice bites, that their skin has time to heal before we are going back, because you do have to scrape the scalp gently, but still scrape it with the comb, because the nits are laid at the base of the hair right next to the scalp skin. And if you find nits that are further down, those are just empty eggshells that have grown down along with the hair. So that means that person has had it a longer period of time.
And we also want to make sure that you're not overcombing the scalp, like Jenny said,
like
because we get calls every single day, Kara. We get calls every single day from parents that they continue to comb their children, even though we say don't do any lice combing until you come back for the follow-up. Because otherwise, number one, you're never going to stop itching if you keep combing that scalp with that stainless steel comb. And also, we just want to make sure, again, that the scalp is not being injured any more than it needs to be. So we tell our patients, don't do any lice combing between your initial treatment and your follow-up, just normal maintenance.
Yeah, brushing out tangles, but no scraping the scalp. It's like a mosquito bite, if you think of it that way. That'll be a good way for listeners to think about it. If you keep scratching a mosquito bite over and over again,
it itches worse.
It itches and
it gets
bleed.
Irritated, gets infected.
It's the same thing with your scalp.
Yeah,
exactly. So you've got to let it heal.
So can you talk a little bit about the CDC thing? Because I don't think parents know. That's why we're seeing more lice outbreaks, right? Is that the rules have kind of changed with lice? Is that correct?
Well, a lot of the school systems have had to come up with different lice policies because of the resistance to pesticide. And also, the American Association of Pediatrics doesn't deem it to be a health hazard because usually, it's not lice. Lice don't carry blood disease or spread blood disease. You can definitely get an infection from scratching, a bite with, the bacteria under your fingernails, but the lice themselves aren't a health hazard. So that's why it's because they can't force a parent to use a professional service. And again, sometimes if the friend group isn't all being treated properly, there might be a year where a whole friend group keeps getting it over and over again because kids are kids. They're going to hug and whisper and touch heads in different ways. So it can definitely spread around friend groups for a long period of time.
So that's why the home checks are so important.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to say, speaking of the home check, Kara actually did a home check just a few days ago.
Oh,
sent me a picture, and it was just debris.
Yeah,
But that's what we tell people. We say, comb it, wipe it on a white paper towel so you can see clearly what's coming out of the head. 99 times out of 100, the pictures we get are going to be debris or food, glitter, just normal things that kids have in their heads. But, that 1% is going to be a lice bug or a nit or whatever. But you always want to wipe it on that white paper towel so you can see what it is clearly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the funny thing is too about that picture. So I am sitting in my bed, checking myself and checking everybody again because I'm crazy. And I sent Molly that picture, and literally I had missed a text she had sent me, right, about Jeff Lewis.
So Jeff Lewis was on his podcast talking about how the school where his child goes to has lice, but luckily it was not in that grade. It was in a different grade,
which was my grade,
which was Kara's grade. So yes, he was talking about how
there was a lice outbreak.
Lice.
So I'm sending her this photo, but I had not seen that she was early in the morning, oh my gosh. Because we've been holding this secret in so long for you, right, Jenny? And it's we're dying to tell you that I've been in Lice-a-geddon. And then Molly is it's 6 a.m. She texts me. She's like, Jeff Lewis talking about the outbreak. How much longer can we keep the secret in and away from you?
I know. I'm proud of you. I can't believe you kept it for so long.
I know.
But it was so hilarious that I had missed her other text. And then there's a picture of debris I had just sent because once again, paranoid Kara is is this it? You know what I mean? But it's true.
That's good. It's good.
Check.
You checked.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. There was a lady that was so funny and she sent us a picture. We have our patients send us pictures of what they find, whatever they wipe on the white paper towel if they're not sure, and we'll tell them what it is. And we had a lady literally send us a picture every week when she did her maintenance check on her kids for 5 years.
Wow. Sending you lice checks for 5 years? Now that's commitment. I mean, that's super impressive.
Got to be serious about your lice checks.
I'd say she was serious.
And after 5 years, finally I had to tell her that one's a nit.
Oh, wow.
But she was able to contain the infestation to one head.
Right.
Because she checked her kids every week. So as soon as she found a nit, 5 years later, the only person in the house, and we checked everyone in the house because she discovered it right away. So only one person had to pay for a treatment.
Right. And it's so expensive. I mean, the treatment, for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's you're combing bugs out of people's hair, but I mean, it's not, it's like getting, if you got to go through your house twice, it's you might as well get your fancy extensions that you were holding back on. I mean, it's it's a lot of money. Yeah,
it is. It's a lot. And, but there's a lot of information parents need to learn from it. And, like we've been saying, the biggest thing is the weekly check. I mean, that's how I got lice myself. The first time from my, at the time, 3-year-old, I didn't do a check that I invented for our company on my own kids and got lice that way. So,
well, wait, let's back it up. So we can't be sure, but the nurse said to me, and you guys are going to laugh hard at this, that most likely this all stemmed from when they all went to camps a couple weeks ago. Remember?
Yes, that's why I said check her as soon as she comes home.
And I didn't
always get lice.
And I didn't. And we talked about that. And you're like, oh, did you check her? And I did not, because I thought, well, she was only at camp for 2 or 3 days, right? And this was weeks ago, as a couple of weeks, and so, but they said literally that's where they think the outbreak was. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to hear it from Jenny. The kid she got it at camp. Jennie and Molly were like, check her head. And I was like, it's fine. I threw her in the shower right away. Like all the things, and it was funny because with her things, I was like, oh, put them in the laundry right away. Make sure, there was, because I was worried about bed bugs, all the things you can get, right?
Right.
When they're at camp. But I didn't do the head check. And I think it's important for parents to know, like, if we're diligent about doing that, you're, like you said, you can keep it to one head or you can know what's going on, because the kids who got it early on, who had the heavier case, like their parents had no idea because they weren't scratching. And that's a big myth, right, guys? Like the scratching, right?
That's actually a huge myth, is that when people scratch that they have lice, and that's not always the case. In most cases that we see, people aren't allergic to the bite. That's what makes you itch. And so in most cases, unless you're doing the weekly check, you may not know that you have it. And we see patients all the time that come in and they're like, well, he wasn't scratchy. He wasn't itching his head.
Right.
And he's had it for 3 months. Well, he's just not allergic to the bites. So that's why it's so important for parents to really check the kids once a week. It takes 5 minutes during bath time, and that's it. But we want people to detect it early. That's always the goal.
Another thing too is that I kept saying to Molly, like, I feel it crawling on my head. And she's like, you don't feel it crawling on your head. That's psychosomatic. There's nothing on your head. I think that's another myth, right? Is that you're going to feel like crawling creatures and you have lice. Because let me tell you, me and several of the other moms who didn't have it were like, we feel it. We know we feel it. We feel it crawling on our head.
Jennie, talk about that.
Yeah, every mom says that. I mean, I was really itchy, of course, after I was treated too, but a lot of it's psychosomatic. And, when you do have lice, you really only itch if you're allergic to the anticoagulant that the lice inject when they bite to feed. So that's what makes a lice bite itch, is if you're allergic to that anticoagulant, kind of like a mosquito.
What about the crawling though? Like, can you really feel?
We've seen cases where someone had so many that there would be no way you wouldn't feel them at that point, because, you've actually got a weight of bugs in your hair. But those are cases that are, a year plus. I mean, we've seen people that have had lice for 9 years before. So,
and the thing is like, I think, which is important to talk about, like, lice does not discriminate, right? Like, it's not like, oh, this person doesn't wash their hair or this person is XYZ.
Right. I used to do a little video on TikTok, and I've posted it a few times, and I made a song up. It was red and yellow, black and white. Everybody does get lice. It doesn't matter what kind of hair, what texture of hair, if it's short, if it's a buzz cut, if it's long, unless you're a vampire, meaning you have no body temperature, or if you are bald, then you cannot get lice. Otherwise,
because there's nowhere to go live.
You can get it. Right?
Yeah.
When parents call, they're so freaked out. And this is kind of a mom guilt thing, but moms always say, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible mom. I didn't know that my child had lice. It's not about that. It really isn't. Parents should be talking about it, because we talk about barfing and boogers and rashes and all kinds of things. We should be talking about head lice, because it is so common now, and there's nothing to be ashamed about it. And if you don't know how to do the weekly check, you may not know that your child has it. So it just is what it is with being a kid nowadays. Everyone gets it.
And you don't think your kid's going to have lice, like, because you know what I mean? Like, you just don't think in your head. That's not something like, what?
Until the school nurse calls.
Until you get the call. Until you get the call. I love how, like, my kid was so chill about it. She's like, I know about lice, whatever. Like, yeah, it's not a big deal.
The lice ladies are my
lice ladies are my friends, and like, lice isn't a big deal. But it's like so funny because, like, she was not freaked out at all. And I mean, Killian just thought it was cool because he's Killian, but it was interesting, I think, in general. And I also think too, like, my head goes to this. Okay, so you take the hair out and you throw it in the garbage can, let's say. Can the lice live in the garbage can on that strand of hair?
For 48 hours, but they're not going to crawl out of the garbage can and then, through your bathroom and back to your hair.
Right.
So they can go short distances, like if you have your head next to each other at night, they can go across, a short distance pillowcase to the next head, but they don't run through your carpet or, run and burrow in your mattress. It's just too far of a distance for them. They would die. They have to feed every 4 to 6 hours to live.
Oh, they're hungry.
So once they miss a feeding, they're weak. You'd really have to kind of lay back down where it was in order for it to get back in your hair, like a pillowcase.
And also, isn't 99, I think you guys told me this one, 99% of the way you get it is not off your head, right? It's like a very small percentage of people who get it.
It's a small
from
percentage. It's usually spread from head-to-head contact, but definitely it can be spread from brush sharing and,
That makes sense.
sleepovers, like, snuggling in the bed with your kid head-to-head or something like that. But again, that's head-to-head contact. So
And when kids get older, they start doing sporting events where they do share a brush because maybe in the morning for athletics, they're doing swim or they're doing, something where they are going to shower afterwards. And then, it's like, oh, I forgot my brush. And you start sharing brushes. So also it's really important for parents to have that additional conversation. Even if at home you're not sharing a brush, make sure in the morning you have your brush to bring if you're going to be going to swim. That's what I had to have with Delaney. I was like, hey, I know that because she swims in the morning. Make sure you always have your brush in your bag, just like you check your homework, right? That kind of stuff happens too, which I had not thought about. Now, my daughter and her best friend had a really good question for you guys. Okay. So after we get through, all the lice, right? And we're sitting this weekend and they're doing like a little craft. They look up at me and they're like, what is the evolution purpose of a louse?
there's no purpose really of
Really,
lice.
there's no purpose in lice in life.
There's no purpose. I mean, one of the things that they've been able to study, which has been good from lice, is the evolution of hair on humans based on the evolution of lice itself. So head lice and body lice all came from chewing lice, which is what animals get. And there's many, many subspecies of chewing lice. But the way that a human's hair changed based on, the climate or the habitat of the human changed, over time to be able to adapt to where they were living or how they were living. So that's how we got these different species of lice and why head lice are a different species than body lice, pubic lice, or chewing lice, which is what animals get. That is a good thing we've been able to study, but they're kind of a plague. I mean, if you read in history, they've made lice combs. They have found a lice comb, I believe. My brother sent me a picture. He's a professor. And when he was at Oxford at the time, they had a display and it had a lice comb that was made BC.
Wow.
It was one of the earliest lice combs they had found that was made out of stone. So lice has plagued humans for thousands of years. And that's one of the reasons that it's pesticide resistant, because it's had a lot of time to build up a resistance to anything that affects the central nervous system.
I mean, it's fascinating. But I guess the question that Delaney had and her friend was, if all the lice were to die in the world, would we have any repercussions?
Head lice, no, we would not have any repercussions, except for people would probably have a lot more hair. Because moms would not rake all their hair out when they found the lice. I mean, it's second to the common cold in kids. So it's important to not ignore that there's lice everywhere, that there's kids. It's not the school's fault. It's not the camp's fault. It's just that kids are there. They go there with lice, and then they are social and they spread it to their friend group. So if you're staying up with your weekly 5-minute checks, then you're at least going to be able to detect it right away and contain it to less heads in your household. That's much more helpful than having the whole family have massive cases of lice.
I've been either having Delaney put her hair in a ponytail at school or a bun or a braid. Does that help as well?
Absolutely. It's less hair to fling all over our friends' heads, because kids are going to be kids. They're going to have head-to-head contact. The less hair that's flinging everywhere, the less that, chance they might have to have that bug transfer, because they're going to go from hair to hair. They have little claws on the ends of their legs that grasp onto hair.
It's very common. And also, once again, no one should be embarrassed about it. I went through it. I'm okay.
Same.
Everyone's okay, right? You went through it. It's totally fine. I mean, it's a good story for me and Molly. The fact I kept panicking, but at the end of the day, but it was funny because all of us moms who were exposed got together for a premiere a couple of days later, our friend's premiere. The minute we start talking about it, we start itching. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, wait, I'm itchy again. I'm totally itchy again. Even though there's nothing.
That happens.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But
Jenny, were you surprised?
Yeah. Were you surprised?
No.
You're not
surprised she got it from camp, but I am surprised that you guys were able to keep a secret for a week from me, because I know it was so hard, especially for Kara to not say.
Oh, I know. I mean, the minute I saw the dead bug, or actually maybe it was just a stun bug on Delaney's head. You know what I mean? I was just everything. I mean, it was there were so many times that I wanted to text you. And then if I talked to you in between, it was hard. because I was like, literally probably had just hung up with Molly and like was like hyperventilating. And then if everything's fine. We're all good. Oh, how you doing?
I bet it's a book of texts like, OMG.
Oh yeah.
What do
I couldn't function. I literally was using the excuse not to work. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of lice. I can't do anything for the next 48 hours. Okay.
I was answering about 150 lice calls, and then an additional 50 were Kara calls.
First of all, I just think it's really funny the timing of it all. And for me, it was a really good lesson and to see. And I want to hit this home, folks, that when I calmed down and I did exactly what you're supposed to do, right? She's lice free. We are, I think, 7 days officially. I texted you, right, Molly, yesterday. She had her final check yesterday. The whole house did. We are lice free 8 days later.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
So,
and then you're going to keep up with your weekly maintenance check.
Now we're going to do a weekly maintenance check. In fact, Delaney, I taught Delaney how to do it. I mean, I will still help her, but it was helpful for her to feel like she sort of, had a little bit of control. So she knows she puts conditioner in her hair and she likes wiping it and I can check or whatever. But it definitely, it's like anything that you would check for and you just don't think about it,
Because you never know when a friend has it. It doesn't mean that it comes back. And that's probably the biggest misconception parents have. Well, the lice came back. No, the lice didn't come back. Your kid got an infestation from someone else or the same person that's self-treating at home with, a pesticide that doesn't work. So that's why we give that tool to parents is so that they're armed with something to detect it right away so that they can contain it to one head and get rid of it very quickly.
And that's why we tell them also, don't wait for the letter to come home from school. Don't wait for a parent to tell you.
Yeah.
You have to assume that there is lice all year round. I mean, it is what it is because it's in every single school all across the country and all across the world.
Well, this has been fascinating as always.
Who knew we'd do another lice episode?
I thought we were done with lice. But then I realized there's so much more to talk about with lice. And it is lice season, but isn't year-round kind of lice season I'm learning now? It's like you have a summer and then you have a fall.
It's year-round.
It's year-round.
Mm-hmm. Because where there are kids, there's going to be lice.
Yeah.
The only time we're not super busy at Lice Ladies is when everyone's out of town, like
getting
spring
lice.
break.
They're out of town getting lice.
But they're getting lice. Yeah. And then when they come back, it's Lice-a-geddon in the clinics. So now you all have to go and check out the photos on the website. And there was a lot of information to go over today. And my producers just told me we are going to do a bonus episode tomorrow.
Yay!
So we're going to do another episode tomorrow on Thursday that has a bunch of takeaways, specifics like how to comb out head lice, what to have in a prevention home kit, travel tips, and myths about lice. So check us out on ogross.com, socials at It's Ogross.
And we'll also have lots of laughs.
Always.
Oh, gross. That drama's about to end, 'cause gross. Stop asking for a friend, taboos. Icky's what we do. Psoriasis, podiatrist, and pinworms too. It's so gross. No need for strife, because gross. Lice is part of life. It's just science. Yeah, it's not so weird. We got the facts, nothing to fear. Oh, gross. It's just science, no, it's not weird. It's just science, nothing to fear. It's just science, so wipe those tears. It's boogers and